Hello students of 1B. This is Mr. Kennedy, and I'm producing this video to talk you guys through a couple of aspects of your first essay assignment for English class. Remember that watching this video is part of your homework for Monday the 21st. You should have a notebook out to jot down questions because in our large class on Tuesday the 22nd, we'll be talking in depth about this assignment, and I expect you guys to have watched this video and come up with some questions that you want to pose to me in class. For your first assignment, I expect you guys to write just one paragraph. We will build up to a full essay throughout the year, but for now, I just want you guys to focus on one paragraph, and in fact, I've given you the topic sentence for this assignment, which you see in italics. The topic sentence is the first sentence of your paragraph, and for this assignment, everyone's topic sentence will be, in Jack London's short story, To Build a Fire, pride leads to the man's downfall. Later in the year, you guys will learn how to write your own topic sentences. But for now, you're going to work on proving this topic sentence, and doing so over the course of a solid paragraph, which for us means 10 to 14 sentences, proving the idea stated in the topic sentence using evidence from the text and analysis of that evidence. So this kind of paragraph is called an interpretive paragraph. You are advancing an interpretation of the story. Your interpretation for this assignment is that pride leads to the man's downfall. Of all of the mistakes that he makes along his journey, you're going to be proving that pride is the source of his most important mistakes. It is what leads to his death at the end of the story. When you're proving something for an interpretive paragraph, you need to do a few things. You need to introduce a piece of evidence. Just like an attorney introduces evidence in a courtroom, you'll be introducing evidence in your paragraph. And for the purposes of an English essay, that evidence means specific details from the story, presented as either a quote or you paraphrasing something that specifically happens in the story. After you present that evidence and show it to the audience, you might think of them as the jury. After you present that evidence, you will analyze it. You will explain why that evidence relates to your topic sentence. In this case, you'll be looking for evidence of the man's pride, details from the story that show he's a proud character, and then you'll be explaining why each detail relates to your main idea, which is that pride leads to the man's downfall. Notice at the top that you'll be introducing quotes using context. And that means explaining where the evidence comes from, who says it, when it happens in the story. And the best way to learn that might be looking at an example. So let's go to the next slide and look at an example of a piece of literary analysis. Okay, so let's take a quick look at an example of the kind of use of evidence and analysis that I will expect for this paragraph. Take a look at what is on the screen right now. Here you have an example of literary analysis for a different essay, I would imagine. This doesn't have anything to do with the man's pride, but it is about the same story. You might imagine the topic sentence for this essay addressing London's depiction of nature. And here the author of this paragraph is focusing in on the bleak and gloomy setting that London establishes early in the story. Take a minute to pause the video now and try to find the three key parts of literary analysis that were listed on the last slide. They are context, which introduces evidence. The second part is evidence itself, which would be either a quote or a paraphrase. And finally, there's analysis of that evidence, which links it to the topic sentence. So pause the video and try to identify those three different parts from these few sentences. Okay, so you can see that the key piece of evidence listed here is this first sentence, which I'm underlining. This is the foundation of this author's analysis. The evidence at hand are the quotes from the story, and the author even repeats part of that quote to really emphasize what is important. Repeats it down here too, I'm now noticing. So if you said that that's the evidence, good work. Where is the analysis? Well, the analysis is everything that follows the evidence and has this author breaking down the different quotes, right? In each case, he introduces a piece of evidence, a quote from the text, and then explains why that is related to the setting, why that's related to nature. Finally, context. This is maybe the trickiest part, and we'll spend more time on this tomorrow, but notice that context introduces the evidence, right? The author doesn't just drop a quote into the paragraph, but he sets it up by saying, in the first sentence of the story, London describes the setting. This tells us where the quote is and from whose perspective the quote comes. Here it comes from the author or the narrator rather than from a character. Here too there's a little bit of context to set up the idea of exceedingly. Here the author is saying, notice that London repeats a word, namely the word exceedingly. So that is also context, part of introduction of the quote. All right, 1B, thanks for listening. I hope this has been somewhat helpful in getting your feet wet in terms of your first interpretive paragraph. And take some time now to jot down thoughts and questions that you'd like to address in class tomorrow. See you then.